It's a Valentin qui nous cherche sans doute. Reveigne comme messieurs, et mettons-nous en route. Fais-tu donc, qu'un regret attriste à nos adieux. Comme vous, pour longtemps, je me quitte ces lieux, j'y laisse Marguerite. Et pour veiller sur elle, ma mère n'est plus là. Les ennemis fidèles sont aussi à ses côtés. Merci. C'est le roi qui t'y compter. Comptez sur nous aussi.
rachète sa chanson, moi. Je vous en promets plusieurs de ma façon.
Une seule suffit, pourvu qu'elle soit bonne.
Je ferai de mon mieux pour n'ennuyer personne. Des équipes dans sa ligne rondapole autour de son piédestal, autour de son piédestal. Il s'attend conduit la vol, conduit la vol. Il s'attend conduit la vol, conduit la vol. Il s'attend conduit la vol, conduit la vol, conduit la vol. Il s'attend conduit la vol. Il confondra, j'étendra ses ailes dans les mains, se riant la paire en main, dans le sang et dans la fange. Oublie il s'attend conduit la vol, conduit la vol. Il s'attend conduit la vol, conduit la vol. Il s'attend conduit la vol, conduit la vol, conduit la vol. Il s'attend conduit la vol, conduit la vol, conduit la vol. Merci de ta chanson. C'est du personnage. Donnez-vous l'honneur de traquer avec nous. Volontiers. Oh, voici climat triste pour vous. Vous voyez cette ligne? Eh bien, fâche présage. Vous vous ferez en montant dans l'assaut.
Vous êtes dans son essayer.
Tout juste autant qu'il faut pour lire dans ta main que le sort te condamne puis toucher une fleur sans qu'elle se fasse. Les deux bouquets à Marguerite passés qui vous additionnent. Prenez garde, mon brave. Où vous ferez-vous par quelqu'un que je sais? À votre santé. Que ton pain est mauvais. Permettez-moi de vous en offrir de ma cave. Voilà, seigneur Akis, à boire. Approchez-vous, chacun sera servi selon ses goûts. À la santé que tout à l'heure vous portiez, mes amis.
le voici, c'est belle.
Eh bien, accordez-la.
Marguerite,
Où est-il?
on y trouve, entre
Et toi, mon ami, nous voilà. Ah ah, vraiment, mon ami, voilà.
It's wonderful to be here with four principals from this performance of Gounod's Faust. Faust is one of those operas that seems to get rather different views depending on whether you're someone who goes to the theater and simply loves to watch opera, or if you're a critic. It's an opera that, of course, has been one of the most standard works in the repertory since it was first performed in 1859. It's the opera with which the Metropolitan Opera opened its season for the first time in 1883, and probably is the most performed opera ever at the French Opéra. And yet at the same time, it continues to get a pretty bum rap from most writers about opera. Somehow or another, they don't have many good words to say about Faust. That famous book by Joseph Kerman called Opera as Drama, that's the book that introduced the characterization of Tosca as that shabby little shocker, had about similar things to say about Gounod's Faust. Kerman writes about how music in opera can create new worlds, but about Gounod's Faust, he says, this is an example of an opera in which music demolishes a world. And he writes, as Wagner observed, the classic case is Faust. Goethe's play has given us an adjective, Faustian, but the world in which the Faustian spirit strives is entirely dissipated by Gounod's pastel timidities. Pastel timidities. Is that the way you react to Gounod's Faust? Do you think that properly describes the way Méphistophélès is treated in this opera?
I don't think I would describe the part of Méphistophélès as pastel timid, written in a pastel timid way.
No, I mean,
it at times is a fairly brutal part vocally. And I mean, certainly the character is not a pastel character. I would say. I think it's a much over maligned opera myself, but then I'm prejudiced because it's always been one of my favorite roles. If not my favorite role. Mm-hmm. So
you've sung, of course, many devilish parts.
Yeah.
How would you characterize what's different about this one from some of the others, Sam?
Well, this devil is very much the most charming of all the devils that I've done.
Something French about him, wouldn't you say?
Yes, something very French. He's a very he's a devil in disguise. Really, I mean, he's a very charming, bon vivant type gentilhomme characterization of the devil, really. He doesn't get nasty very often, as opposed to Boito, who gets very nasty quite often.
That's right. But, I mean, even if you look at a part like Marguerite, I suppose for a long time, Renee, many productions of this opera cut out what are some of the most extremely moving scenes in the opera. I mean, I seem to recall growing up on performances of Faust and almost never seeing the cathedral scene, for example. And yet, what a remarkable moment that is.
Oh, well, that really surprises me. I had no idea that the cathedral scene would have ever been cut, because it is, I think, one of the most dramatic scenes in the entire opera. I mean, the use of organ in that scene is just terrifying, and of course the chorus as well. What is normally cut is the spinning aria and I actually love that aria. I think it's very poignant. I think it's beautiful. It's not terribly long, and it completely illustrates. I mean, it fleshes out her character, and it's so much. I mean, she becomes a person with thoughts and desires, as opposed to just a classic victim, the innocent victim. And I love the piece. I'm surprised it's cut.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm certainly pleased that Lyric is doing it. Are there parts of the opera that Lyric isn't doing that you think should be there? I know that I guess the big ballet sequence is probably not part of this performance, and it rarely is these days.
Valpurgis scene is not,
Have you ever performed in that? Where that was pleasant?
Sam and I just did it in San Francisco. Yeah,
they did sort of an abbreviated. There was no ballet, none of the ballet, but we did all the dialogue.
I think in general it's a decent choice to cut it. It can be done effectively, but it comes at a point in the evening when you're really ready for the story to move on. And unless you have something particularly special to present as this journey through Valpurgis night,
exactly.
You're not missing a whole lot by missing the music, I don't think. Of course, Sam has more music.
I rather enjoy that scene vocally. I mean, it's some nice music to sing for me. I'm just speaking personally.
Sure.
But their pastel timidity is, I think, an appropriate description of that, of what musically, in comparison to what should be going on in the scene. It's rather a sweet Walpurgis night.
Yeah, it's not quite as intense as it should be.
Right.
In the Berlioz Damnation of Faust, that journey is this intense experience, and the Walpurgis by Gounod is not quite that way.
Yeah. Often, when we think about French opera today, we think about it without the ballets that were so much part of them in history. And I guess it's hard for modern audiences to understand that convention and really enjoy it. And there is a sense, I think, in which Richard is right, that if you want to focus on the intense drama of the moment, certainly moving directly to the scene of Marguerite in prison just is heartrending and creates a very different sense of the dramatic activity.
I think you can blame it on movies. You can blame it on a lot of things. The way the audience has been educated, really, over the years. But and I'm not one to just willy-nilly throw away the traditions. But I do think that it's important that you think of the audience when you sort of shape this piece. And what is it going to be? And how is my audience going to feel at 10:30 right now as we finish this scene? What is going to be the most effective moment in the next to present? And I think that's what Frank has done in this piece, and I think it works really well.
From your sense of the role of Faust and what Faust represents, obviously a great deal of that sense of what the Faustian spirit is, and this man of letters who is searching for knowledge, etc. Clearly, that's not what Gounod is most concerned about. His Faust has quite different aims, and yet that sense of searching, how does one bring it out in a performance? That sense of
there's the futility in the beginning, which again Frank makes very clear, I think. Faust's futility at searching for the answers of life. And in doing so, he just eventually basically gives up and has looked to God, has looked everywhere, and eventually looks to the devil. And when that comes true, the devil is there and gives him his wish, if you will, of youth and to try it again. He finds himself in a position where he's not just young, he's young with the experiences of an old man. And so when he sees Marguerite, he doesn't just see her as a 20-year-old with hormones. He sees her with all of the knowledge he's accumulated for 80 years, however old he is. And that's a different character than many people realize he is. He's not just young. He's wise at the same time.
Do you think that's written into the part in an effective way?
There's a reflection written in the garden scene, which is so gorgeously written. There's always this reflective attitude, particularly for Faust. He's always sort of watching her and just going, oh, because he's breathing it in. And he is experiencing it and trying to absorb how wonderful it is. That's different than just the youthful jumping in with both feet. He's tasting it very carefully as he goes along.
That's nicely observed. I think that's a very real sense of what makes this special.
Right.
Certainly, talking about pastels would not suit what happens to Valentin, the brother. What's your sense of that character, Dmitri, and your feelings about the way this opera works from your perspective?
Well, for my character, Valentin particularly has got enormous range of right from beginning to the top of the death scene, having possibility to have that great line from the real passionate brother love into a hate. And having that, Valentin's got quite impressive development, his particular role.
It's a very strong part. I mean,
it is, yeah. Nothing to do with sort of pastel colors.
Gounod, in fact, placed enormous emotional range in that part, and indeed, I would say in all the parts. The kind of intolerance that one finds to this particular kind of drama in that kind of critical vocabulary, I think, is very problematic. Do you think it may have anything to do with attitudes towards French opera in general? Is there something about the French opera that has turned off sort of those who have grown up writing as critics with particular interest, let's say in the German opera or in some of the later Italian repertory? Why is it that French opera has had this sort of bum rap?
Well, actually, I don't think it is the whole French opera syndrome that affects it. I think it is more that Faust is a very complex opera between the characters. And very often I think it's looked at as a piece where you have to make it work with the production, and I think that's 180 degrees in the wrong direction. What has to happen is you have to work hard at creating these relationships so that they are clear to your audience. And if you do that, you find yourself, sitting in the audience, and all of a sudden it's the prison scene, because you've been carried through a story. And if you're true to that story and true to those relationships, that is what a great production is about. Not about fire, not about smoke, not about lights, which often Faust is turned into, and then subsequently it turns into a bore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The other major issue, I think, is that it's popular as much as La Bohème or Carmen are popular, and the critics aren't that wild about dealing with something. And it's popular, I think, because it affects people on a really an emotional level, and also on a beauty level, because the music is very beautiful and very accessible. So I don't think it's away from the real philosophical edge of Faust, and that's something I think that they have a hard time with. And French music, I think, does that too. It's also it tends to be beautiful in an emotional way, and of course it's interesting because the problem is that stylistically you're not really supposed to approach French music from that kind of romantic way. It should be a much drier approach, but I think that creates the tension and creates really what the style should be.
There is a remarkable sense to which this is an opera in which ensembles play such a role. It's that interaction between characters carried through with this extraordinary musical texture that is both accessible on one level, but also is filled with subtle relationships between the characters.
Definitely, and subtle musical relationships too. This is my first Marguerite, so I'm learning the piece really, and I'm day by day surprised at when he's brought in different themes and really enriched the story a lot by bringing you back to another scene. It's very clever, I think.
Mm-hmm. This is in Frank's production. What is new in what Frank Corsaro, who of course is a director who is always doing new things and has a tradition of that, what is he bringing to this that is something different, something very special?
Well, for instance, I appear in several scenes that I'm not actually composed in. For instance, the relationship that I have with Valentin, which is usually you have to guess at what that is. I am in the beginning of the opera actually seeing him off to war, and he sings his great aria to his sister Marguerite, which really makes the whole story make a lot more sense. And her pregnancy is played up much more in this production than it's often ignored, and of course it's a very important issue. It just isn't explored that much in the opera. So I think he's made this, it's a very rich production. A lot of layers and textures for us to explore, which of course makes my job in my first Marguerite a big one, a tall order, but we're working hard.
I've certainly seen productions of the opera in which very different sorts of things have happened and that I felt have been problematic. That is where people, for example, have tried to impose on this opera things that come out of the Goethe and sort of change the nature of the characters as if somehow you could create a different sort of piece from what it is. And that sense of working from the text, working from what's there and enriching it is one that I think is very helpful for an audience and probably helpful for singers who have to make this function on stage.
I just really am amazed to have an opportunity to do this part. And I think if I never ever sing another Marguerite, I won't be sad, because it's probably never going to be better than this.
Well, it is hard to imagine a better cast than the one that Lyric here has assembled, and I'm sure the radio audience is looking forward also to coming to the theater, seeing this performance of Faust. Best of luck.